Miami Hurricanes got a huge verbal commitment from five-star Armando Blount. Let's get a scouting report and what might be next for these Miami Hurricanes.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday, if there is such a thing. I'm Alex Donno, your host, University of Miami alumnus, longtime South Florida sports radio vet, and contributor to allhurricanes.com. And thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. You know, I was on vacation the end of the week, so we didn't give nearly enough time and energy to Miami's five-star plus commitment from Armondo Blount, defensive tackle, Miami Central. That's why we're bringing on Larry Blustein. Our boy Blue. Blue, how are you?
Doing good. A little bit tired from the weekend. Last week, because of the Jewish holiday, they shifted everything around, and we ended up going Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So it's 4 long days, but you know me, this is the time of year that I relish the most.
Yeah, and everybody saw the pictures and videos of you hanging out with Mario Cristobal over the weekend. So we know Blue has been very, very busy. But Larry, let's start with Armondo Blount. This is a 2025 verbal commitment. Now, there is some chatter about possible reclassification of 2024. We'll circle back to that. But let's talk about Armondo Blount, the player, Blue. This guy, when he was back at Dillard, started playing varsity football all the way back in 8th grade. So he's into his 5th year of varsity experience now at Miami Central. Big-bodied player. What can you tell us about the newest Miami Hurricanes verbal commit, Armondo Blount?
Yeah, different level type of kid. No doubt that he's been the number 1 player in the class of 2025 for the last 2 years. So everybody's kind of seen him, as you mentioned, because Dillard has that 6th to 12th grade now, which is started a couple of years ago. So they're utilizing a lot of 8th graders, 7th graders going on the junior varsity now. And, so he had an opportunity to do some really, really good things at the varsity level at an early age. But not only that, he's the number 1 rated shot putter in the country for his class. Yes. So that's another thing that, a lot of people like. And, I'm sure he's going to do it just like Ed Reed did, at Miami when he was there throwing the javelin. I think that you're going to see him there going to the college level and throwing the shot. And I'm sure that Miami will encourage that as well. Good off-season conditioning. He's going to stay strong, and he's going to compete, which they like a lot. So, yeah, he's pretty much a total package. Gets it done in the classroom as well. He's good-sized kid, quick off the ball. He'll have a good test this week against Chaminade-Madonna, the number 2 and 3 teams in the state. So, yeah, this is a guy that, I think it came out of left field for some because they were looking, there was a lot of other schools, national rated schools, Alabama and such that were on him. And I personally thought he was looking for a program that also had great track. But you make, especially in an individual event like shot put or discus, you are what you are. There's nobody's going to help you out as far as a team or so, and you train the way you train. So, it's kind of a sign of times, especially because Miami's gotten off to a really good start and that are winning. And, winning kind of like, it gets everybody boiling, and especially the game against Texas A&M. A lot of those recruits, are kind of likening it to the Notre Dame game that time when Bandy returned the interception and the place went crazy, and the recruits that were on hand kind of really solidified themselves, as far as what school they wanted to go to. And I think that's what's happening at Miami. And, I know Mario Cristobal feels the same way. You got to win. You're never going to be satisfied for where you're at. They're I think that's what happens, and that's like you get a kid, like a Bain last year, and certainly get a 5-star kid this year like Blount.
Yeah, Blount, 2025 is his current class. He knows he has the option to reclassify. Maybe he's thinking about it. If Armando Blount were to make that move and reclassify to the class of 2024, which would make a lot of Miami fans happy because Miami has had trouble landing some of the marquee defensive tackles in the class of 2024. You could get one a year early. Is that a legitimate option for Armando Blount? Do you think physically and mentally he would be ready to jump to college a year early?
Yeah, no doubt. From a physical standpoint, yes. And as you alluded to before, he's been at the varsity level now for 4 years. So he's kind of been around, from when he was an 8th grader, being around a lot of those high-level kids and, kids that were getting recruited while he was in the 8th grade. And they would come, and he kind of got to learn the process and matured a little bit. They kind of leaned on him quite a bit last year at Dillard, and this year I went to see him twice, and kid's a different level type of kid, and and certainly somebody who I think comes into that situation. And we talked about this before, Alex. You look at the schools like Georgia and Alabama and Ohio State and Michigan, and they have 2 and 3 of those type of kids at that position in defensive line, especially Georgia, who could lose 2 or 3 of them. Remember, Clemson did the same thing. Miami needs to have a run of those. They could have 4 and 5. The Leonard Taylors, obviously, and the Bains, and some of the emerging stars coming out of the recruiting class from last year, and also the transfer portal class. So he would be a welcome addition. He'd compete right away, especially because he'd come in, in January. So he would be ready to go during the spring, and that would be huge. And he'd be right in the mix next year because of the fact that he would have those 5-6 months, not only getting bigger and stronger, but from a mental standpoint, and also going to classes and, learning a little bit of how the college life is. And I think that's the best thing ever invented. And somebody like him would fully take advantage of it.
We have so much still to cover here with Larry Blustein, who is the expert in Florida on high school football, recruiting guru, Larry Blustein. We're going to talk about Miami's vertical passing game so far and what impact that can have on wide receiver recruits out there, including if it's making any sort of an impact on Jeremiah Smith. We will talk about, and we have to talk about what we've seen from these Canes so far. 3-0 heading into Temple this Saturday. You want to keep it locked because, folks, as we like to say, we are only getting started here on Locked On Canes. Guys, therapy has helped me so much, my friends, because sometimes it can be difficult juggling your professional life with your family life, being a husband, being a parent. I have benefited so much from therapy. If you're looking for someone to talk to, BetterHelp can help. Give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. You just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Get a break from your thoughts with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnCollege today to get 10% off your first month. Guys, therapy gives you a place to get through these thoughts. When your mind is racing, you can talk them through at BetterHelp. I'm telling you guys, you need to try this. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnCollege to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/LockedOnCollege. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen today. We are available free wherever you get your podcasts and available free on YouTube. Make sure if you want to take your everydayer experience to the next level, sign up for our exclusive SMS texting service through Subtext. I include a link in the show description below. You get text messages directly from my phone to yours, recruiting scoops, opinions, breaking news, one-on-ones. You can ask me questions on there. Give it a try. 2 weeks free, and then if you like it, after 14 days, you can opt in for $4.99 a month. We give you a lot of added value on there. Click the link in the show description below. We have Larry Blustein with us, South Florida high school sports expert, 560 WQAM. Blue, based on what we've seen specifically in these past 2 games, Miami went vertical against Texas A&M. The passing game was on full display, and we had, guys like Xavier Restrepo, Jacoby George, Tyler Van Dyke, obviously, Colby Young having monster games. Jacoby George has now scored 4 touchdowns in the last 2 games. So I've got to think when, Jeremiah Smith and some of the undecided receivers out there are watching what Miami's doing, they can feel a little bit better about potentially being a Cane based on the Shannon Dawson offense as compared to the Josh Gaddis offense last year.
Yeah, that's a good point. But the one thing in Jeremiah Smith in the favor of, of Miami maybe landing him down, down the road is that he lives down here. And so he's seeing a lot of what's unfolding. And obviously, a lot of people outside the area still remember Miami from last year, and they're like shaking their head. How do they get all these guys? But we know why, because Mario and his staff recruit extremely well. But somebody like him obviously could see a place for himself. Also remember this, that, Tyler Van Dyke won't be here next year and into the future. So they also have to look at what quarterback's coming up. And I think that's another determining factor. And then the more, that the backup or backups get a chance to play, he'll get a chance to see what he has, for the next couple of years as well. So there's a lot that goes into it. Certainly, Ohio State's a great draw. You know that as well as I do. They'll lose Joey Porter Jr. this year. They'll lose Marvin Harrison. And there'll be some open spots. Obviously, Tate, Ennis are there. They recruited a couple of major prospects for the future as well. So we'll see. Everything, there's a lot that goes into this. And I think at the end of the day, Alex, we're going to find out what's, how he feels. But the advantage to Miami is that he's living here. And he gets a chance and, to see a Mario Cristobal stay an entire game at Heritage the other night for the Chaminade game, which is, you don't see that anymore. You see a college coach will come, stay a half and see you. But he and Kevin Beard, the wide receivers coach, were there from the jump, So, and that's important because the kids look and they see, hey, there's Cristobal and, he cares about me and he's come here for me. And I think that, for a kid in your 17, 18-year-old range, that means a lot.
Yeah. And he has locked in a visit date again from Miami. Jeremiah Smith is going to be checking out the Canes at the Georgia Tech game in a couple of weeks, the ACC opener for Miami. So we do have, I know a lot of us had thought he was going to come to the Texas A&M game. He did not. He went to Ohio State versus Youngstown instead, but he is reportedly going to be coming for the Georgia Tech game. So they will get a firsthand look again at Jeremiah Smith. And Blue, I know you've watched a couple of Miami commits, probably a lot of them recently, but I know this past weekend you had a chance to do some scouting on Daylen Russell, the defensive lineman at Miami Columbus, who's a Miami commit, and you've also gotten a chance to look again at Zaquan Patterson, who is a beast at Chaminade. I'd love to hear your latest scouting reports on how these players are doing in their final high school season.
Well, Daylen played really well the other day. It was kind of a choppy game against Palmetto because there was lightning delays and the field at Tropical Park was wet. But nevertheless, their run defense is really good. He anchors it in the middle. There's a lot of talent with Stevenson and who's going to Stanford and a couple of other players on that roster. But he's a big kid. He's strong. He's very agile. He's quick. And I think that with the coaches, especially because Coach Cristobal and Coach Mirabal, both Columbus graduates, and I had to remind them to not stand on the sideline of Columbus too much because Palmetto would get upset. So, so they moved into the end zone and watched. But, seeing them firsthand are really good. Same thing with Zaquan Patterson. He was laying some wood the other night, and, they were excited. And, to get a kid like that who's, so skilled and very talented. And I think the more he plays, a lot of people around the country are going to see that he's going to be in the upper echelon of safeties come next year.
Wow, I love it. Larry Blustein is with us, South Florida High School Sports.com and 560 WQAM. When we come back, want to talk about the biggest things that stand out about the Miami Hurricanes so far. Safe to say both new coordinators, Lance Guidry on the defense, Shannon Dawson on the offense. Miami's new offense has been an absolute breath of fresh air. We will talk about the standouts, and so much more when we come back. You want to keep it locked right here to Locked On Canes. Now time to crown your game changer of the week, brought to you by Athletic Brewing Company. Xavier Restrepo, guys, look what he's done 2 weeks in a row. 126 yards receiving against Texas A&M, followed that up with 120 against Bethune-Cookman, and I'm sure X is going to be a crucial part of Miami's game plan once again heading into Temple. Remember, Miami was without Restrepo for big stretches of the season last year due to injury. Didn't have him against Texas A&M this year, had him this year, and what a difference Tyler Van Dyke's favorite target has made so far. Much like X, Athletic Brewing has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good. Guys, Athletic Brewing Company has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that are full-flavored and well-crafted, just like a full-strength beer. They're constantly releasing limited edition experimental styles to add to their variety. They're fit for all times, so you can drink them anytime, anywhere, and make any activity more enjoyable, like watching a big game, tackling work, or working out. No hangovers ever with Athletic Brewing. So try it out. You can find Athletic Brewing Company's non-alcoholic brews at a store near you or buy online at athleticbrewing.com. First-time customers can use code LOCKEDON to get 15% off your first online order. That's Locked On at checkout for 15% off at athleticbrewing.com. Near beer, exclusions and conditions apply. Athletic Brewing Company, fit for all times. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts and available free on YouTube. Make sure you check out Locked On College Football Kickoff Live every Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. I will be back in the studio for that this week. I was out last week. The guys did an awesome job holding it down for me. I will be back 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. today on College Football Kickoff Live, available on all Locked On College YouTube channels, including this one. But the man, the myth, the legend, Larry Blustein is with us. Blue, anything surprise you so far about Miami's offense? Because I know a lot of folks were wondering if TVD still had that it factor from a couple of years ago. We are seeing full command over Miami's offense. We're seeing accuracy on the deep passing game, and we're just seeing so much more yards after catch. The receivers look so much more engaged. What has stood out to you so far?
The offensive line play. And you think
Yes.
about what they didn't have last year, they have now. And it affords the running game to open up. It affords Tyler to get a lot more time and scour the field a little bit more like he is. It's been a major difference, not just because you get two kids from the transfer portal that were really, really big-time kids that come in as seniors, leaders, guys who've been there, done that. But you also have some kids out of the portal that are really making the difference, and also guys that you've recruited. So I think that's the big impact, because everything makes it, the offensive line makes everything go around, especially a running game, which I'm just blown away with, because you've got so many different backs. I don't think there's a back on that team that's the same as the next guy. I mean, you have, a power back, you have people who can catch the ball, you have somebody that runs tackle the tackle real well, and then you have a couple of kids that can bounce it outside. And in the college game, that's the most difficult thing to comprehend for a lot of these kids who come out of high school that, get the ball on sweep and just dart outside. Well, at the college game, you have linebackers who run in the 4-4 range, and they know how to take angles, so they kind of head you off. But Miami's got that type of running game, especially with the kid AJ Allen, that once he breaks the plane, he can get up outside and go, because he's that type of back. And Parrish, I think, is a very underrated back of what he does for the team, the ultimate team player, obviously. And then you take a look at somebody, like we haven't even seen Devontae Citizen yet. And you get a chance to watch Mark Fletcher, who's the future of the team. And I think that's an important part of the deal, especially with Chaney, Chaney reminds me a lot of Javaris James back in the day. Remember, Javaris played at the next level as well. Big, strong kid, who takes a pounding. Hopefully he stays healthy. But that opens up everything, Alex, that offensive line. That gives your quarterback an opportunity to make more plays. Obviously, the receivers, they're utilizing a lot of the speed now that they have. The here's a perfect example, and we just mentioned Xavier Restrepo. Here's some guys, a position kid. He's not a 4-4 guy. He's not going to burn you, but he knows how to run patterns. He's a tough guy. He won't go down on an initial hit, and he's smart. So that's why everybody's excelling. And I even think when your backup quarterbacks start playing more, which they did last week, and they'll do this week as well, maybe even the Georgia Tech game, because when you leave that Georgia Tech game, let's keep in mind, there won't be an easy game the rest of the way. No. I mean, we saw with Boston College, and I've reiterated it, Miami has had a losing record at Chestnut Hill over the last 11 appearances. So nothing's a given, no matter what anybody will tell you, oh, we'll win that game. No. So you have to play one game at a time. And then I think you look at teams like North Carolina and NC State, Louisville, all of them on any given day are capable of playing with the best teams in the country, Clemson as well. So that's what you need. You need the next couple of weeks to kind of keep the tune-ups going at every position. You got to see what you have just in case adversity should hit, like last year. We'll see that this guy's ready. He's ready, the next man up. And I think that's one of the important parts of this roster as opposed to last year's roster, is that it's more versatile, it's more athletic, and it's more talented.
Blue, when you were talking about Jeremiah Smith, you mentioned, tracking Miami's backup quarterbacks because Tyler Van Dyke is, more than likely going to be off to the NFL next year. We've had a couple of good performances by Emory Williams in relief. And he, not every throw has been perfect, but most throws have been so far in the limited action we've seen Emory. He looks like he's got a strong, accurate arm, shows a lot of poise. You can see him going through his reads. He's got that prototypical size to play the position. Emory Williams better than most, Blue, because you were one of the first people talking about him at Milton High School, who not a lot of people know about or scout. What have you seen so far, some of the finer points from Emory Williams in his 2 appearances?
A lot of maturity, for his age, and someone who's smart enough to sit back and take in everything that Tyler Van Dyke is doing and the coaching staff, and somebody who's learning every single day about the position. And the only thing that separates people like that from being at that next level is experience, playing time, snaps. And that's, thank goodness for games like, last week in the Miami of Ohio game, and also, not to take Temple or anybody for granted, but they're a whole lot easier to line up with Temple than it is Texas A&M or Clemson or North Carolina. So that come the fourth quarter, maybe late third quarter, Miami should have the games in hand, and then Coach Cristobal could say, you know what, let's take a look at Emory with the ones, because that's essential, because you want to get him playing time. You don't want to ruin any of the momentum of the game by changing up quarterbacks. But if the game's in hand, you got to run him quite a few snaps with the ones, just so how you can see how he performs, at that level. Because anybody could get in there with the 2s against 3s and all that and look good, but you don't get a true indicator of how talented the quarterback or the player is. And Emory's a dude, and I saw it from the beginning. Really good demeanor. He'll have the opportunity to become a leader. Right now he's still learning on himself. So when he grasps that over the next couple of years, and Ja'Cory too, whoever, does merge. And then remember, Miami's got a couple of other kids coming in. So, I think he's picking things up. He's impressing people. Like you said, he dropped some dimes in there. He's got the arm strength. Just now he needs to get the experience, and that just comes with, time. And that's the one thing. Everybody wants to be the dude right off the bat, and it's not easy, not at a high level of college. And that's exactly where Miami's headed.
Well, Larry Blustein, we all know, does a fantastic job. You can hear him weekly on the South Florida High School Sports Show on 560 WQAM. Is the show tonight, Blue? Let people know what they can expect.
Yeah, Coach Mike McIntyre, head coach at FIU. They're off to a great start. Good dude. He joins us a couple times a year. He's going to be on. Josh Darrow from the WQAM broadcast team. Josh is probably as close to the, as anybody to what's going on. He's on the sidelines during the game. He hears things. He picks up things. As you well know, really good guy as well. And yeah, should have some pretty good guests on. A couple of high school coaches, couple of college coaches. We'll take a look at the Gators as well, as we do scour the entire, college front in the state. And yeah, it's going to be a good show. We try to give everybody, a quality show every week until the Heat and the Panthers get going. We'll be Monday night, 6 to 8.
6 to 8 p.m. Monday night tonight. Larry Blustein, thank you so much for the time, Blue, and we'll talk to you again soon.
You too, Alex. Thank you.
And thank you so much to the everydayers. Make sure if you're watching us on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel. If you listen to the audio version, make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Odyssey app, wherever you get your pods. And we will talk to you again tomorrow on another episode of Locked On Canes. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.